NARSAD is helping me to see how to identify persons who are predisposed to schizophrenic disorders. So what we are trying to do is to discover the illness as early as possible, and also to find the treatment methods to intervene and ultimately to prevent the illness to occur. In terms of the breakthrough discovery, which are supported by NARSAD, we concentrate on what are the genetics and environmental factors which predispose a person to be manifesting prodromes. That is very important to study. Now we know it is not just the genetics. Environmental factors is also very important. To prevent the illness, we are doing intensive study to see which genes are actually involved. And we already know several suspected genes, but we have not confirmed yet. If we can confirm one with the genetics components could be confirmed, we can identify these patients carry the predisposition to develop a schizophrenia. To receive an award is not our purpose of doing research. I consider to receive an award is just to appreciate what we have done for the discovery. But one important thing that these awards are always decided by a committee of our peers. And our peers recognize what you are doing is really contributing to the treatment and prevention of mental illness.
The reason why I went into psychiatric research was that I, for many years, have seen well-being people suddenly change into a depressive episode or into a manic episode. How can this happen? How can people who are like you and me, who are healthy, suddenly change completely? I want to go to try to find out what are the basic mechanisms behind these changes. So some of those things which I'm most proud of that we have revealed over the last years is the progressive course of illness in bipolar disorder. We have over the last decade or so showed that bipolar disorder is more progressive, more deteriorating than we believed before. We have showed that the continued treatment with lithium for a long time reduces the risk of suicide, but more intriguing, in fact, it also seems to reduce the risk of developing dementia in the long run. By documenting this, we have also showed that this intervention has most often to be a combination of a pharmacological as well as a psychological intervention. What I really would like to discover in the years to come is some solid biomarkers for bipolar disorder. And of course you can ask, well, research is a long-term process. What makes me go on with that? It is the suffering I see from my patients when they suffer from depression. They stimulate me to try to do this better for these patients. To receive the NARSAD Bipolar Disorder Mood Prize is a very great support for me and our research. It is also important that bipolar disorder is acknowledged as an important research area, because research in bipolar disorder has not been prioritized in the same way as research in many other areas.
To me, the most rewarding aspect about being a researcher is getting to make new discoveries. If I can learn something today that I didn't know yesterday, that really turns me on. So making discoveries doesn't happen every day, but when it does, that keeps me going. The research that we do uses the longitudinal method, and that means that we begin with several thousand babies, all born in the same year, and then we follow them forward as they grow up, bringing them into the laboratory for assessments of their physical and mental health every couple of years, for as much as 30 or 40 years. The reason we do this is that it allows us to track the development of children who have mental health problems right up until their adulthood, and that gives us an evidence base for knowing when to intervene and what needs to be done.
We've been following a group of children who back in the 1970s had very poor self-control. They had a hard time regulating their emotions. They couldn't modulate their impulses. As we have followed these children into adulthood, now in their 30s, we've learned that these children with poor impulse control also have a lot more mental health problems. But what's been really striking is that they also have more physical health problems through tracking biomarkers in these individuals. We know that they are at greater risk for heart disease. The very newest thing in the study of gene-environment interactions, and the reason it's thrilling to me, is that it's the meeting point for two very different areas of research. Neuroscience and epidemiology are coming together to ask and try to address long-standing questions about the causes of mental illness.
There is a finding I'm really most proud of. We found that among the adults in our sample who had mental disorders, already over half of them had had a diagnosable mental disorder in the study before they were 15 years old. And the implications of that kind of finding are very clear. It means that if we could do something to successfully treat children's mental disorders, we could reduce the burden and suffering of mental disorder lifelong.
Being a scientist is a wonderful privilege. It's true that you don't get to make a new discovery every day, but I must say that designing research well has its own rewards. Training and working with young scientists is wonderful because they bring new ideas and they keep you learning and they keep you and your research fresh. And in that regard, NARSAD has been incredibly generous in supporting the careers of young scientists on our team.
We have received other awards for our research in the past, but being singled out by NARSAD is a huge honor, and it's really exciting to me because NARSAD is well known for supporting basic science, which is the kind of science we do, but also NARSAD is widely known for contributing to educating the public about the meaning of science, and that means a lot to me, so we're really pleased.
I think to be a successful scientist, you really need a passion for what you're doing. You need to be fascinated by the questions you're addressing, and you need to be very motivated and excited by the answers you get. The goal of my research is to understand the detailed mechanisms underlying learning and memory in the human brain, and really how it is that the experiences we have during our lifetime, from the moment we're born to the second we die, how those experiences impact on the brain and thereby modify our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. We do this by studying the molecular mechanisms underlying nerve cell to nerve cell communication and understanding how that communication is modified both during learning and memory and also during various disease states. such as depression and addiction and schizophrenia. It's just intrinsically fascinating when you start thinking about how is it I'm talking. I've learned a language and it's just effortlessly. And how does my brain do that? I'm not sure there's going to be a single breakthrough. There have been, the process of scientific discovery. I think it's going to be a more continual process of one discovery leading to another. NARSAD has been incredibly important in my career, and I can't thank them enough for their research support early in my career and their continued research support as I became a more seasoned investigator. NARSAD realizes there also needs to be a good amount of support for very basic neuroscience, to understand some of the basic processes that underlie the ability of the human brain to do all the wonderful things it does. Receiving the Goldman-Rakesh Prize for Cognitive Neuroscience Research is an incredibly high honor.
I think I was born with a natural curiosity to not just take things at face value, but to dig deeper and to find the essence underlying these presumptions that we have. We've enunciated a very grand vision for our work and for our lab. And the vision is that we will discover the causes of mental illnesses so that we can someday develop prevention protocols to keep people from developing these illnesses. We're doing some of the most cutting-edge research here at our university in psychiatry and leading the way by the application of microarray technologies, sequencing technologies, as well as our ability to parse or dissect these disorders into more elemental biological entities. We intend to use the prize from NARSAD and the Sidney R. Baird Jr. Foundation to further our research on biomarkers for schizophrenia. We hope that we'll be able to find in the blood some indication of what's going on biologically in individuals who have schizophrenia, as well as their unaffected relatives, so we can find out if they're expressing something too that's indicative of their underlying susceptibility toward the disorder. If we can identify risk factors for schizophrenia earlier than we currently can, then we'll be able to start treatments sooner. We hope that we can actually identify avenues for prevention. I was once told that if you set your vision too narrow, you'll accomplish it and have nothing to work toward. If you set a big vision, people may at first shake their head and not understand or dismiss it. But if we work toward this goal, we can accomplish it.